Bryan, I want to welcome you to Over Drink.
Thank you for having me.
Normally how we do this, right? We usually pour a drink, we rap till the drink is over. You already brought me a drink, so we're gonna skip the pouring the drink part, right? And we just have a little toast. Former Philadelphia police officer.
Yeah, I was a Philadelphia police officer for about, from 2011 to 2018 is when I was locked up.
That's not normally,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
hear
yeah.
from a cop. Like, so what's your story, man?
I was a Philadelphia police officer, like I said, from 2011 to 2018. In my career of a Philadelphia police officer, I was highly decorated. I received the Medal of Heroism. I was highly praised. You know, I was that cop in the city. Everyone knew I was respected, and I was liked. I ran into a disgruntled lieutenant that was on his way out the job. He had 39 years on the job, complete racist. Everywhere he got put in the department, filed lawsuits from him harassing, you know, minorities, women. I was inside the office one day. He didn't know I was in there. He came in and went on a rant during promotional time about black people. He said they were unqualified, uneducated, put in positions of power because of affirmative action, and they're destroying the department. You know, women suck and F their way up to the top.
What was your reaction to it when you heard him go on this rant?
You know, I sat back, I looked at my partner who at the time he had about like 6 years on, so you know he had more time on than me because I only had about 2 years. I looked at him like, yo, this is crazy. He was more upset than I was, you know. He was the one that was outraged, who initially started the complaint. You know, I was the witness that backed them up. And what they did was they came in, you know, they separated me and my partner, and, you know, they put that pressure on us. You know, he came out, you know, bro, I got a family. Like, when they pulled me in the office, and I can only speak for what was said to me, you know, I sat down with the captain of the district. First thing he said was, listen, a lot of you new officers, you guys are a little soft. He was like, the lieutenant, he's an old Vietnam veteran. He's been around for a while, you know. That's just the way he is.
But now you were a veteran also,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I'm like,
I mean, not a non-veteran, but you served in Iraq,
I did,
right?
yeah. And I'm like, listen, you know, I was like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm a veteran too. I deployed. I said I was hurt over in Iraq. I was in the hospital, laid up for like a month over stuff that happened from a bomb going off. So don't tell me that I don't understand and I'm soft. That's not the case. I said what he said was out of pocket. And I was like, and the fact that you're sitting there even talking to me about how you guys go way back and he's not that type of person, why would I even let you try to investigate what's going on between us?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
You already tainted.
He, straight up, and he was a man of his word. He was like, listen, you got a long career ahead of you. If you don't let this go, it's gonna be short.
So how'd you play it?
I did not let it go, and it was short.
Was it the Black Lives Matter shirt that they had an issue with you on Instagram, on Facebook? So what was, so I guess on one hand, like I get where you're coming from, 100%, right? On the other hand, it's kind of like you was in the lion's den, stroking, you know what I mean, poking the lion.
So just to give a little clarity of like the Black Lives Matter shirt, the Fuck the Police t-shirt that I had, you know, those were on my social media for years leading up to when it became a department-wide issue.
Gotcha.
And it was only because they were looking for something to bury me for.
Gotcha.
I went to the NWA Straight Outta Compton movie in 2015. I dressed up like Eazy-E. I had the wig, I had the glass, I had the gold chain.
So that explains
you get what I'm saying? I took
all the business.
Dozens of pictures and put them up. And out of all the pictures, someone went through and they took the pictures that they can use to try to smear my image.
Gotcha.
Because, like I said, the one way you win on the department is you separate.
Yeah.
And you gotta, and when I'm a likable guy, so you gotta convince people that I'm no longer likable, and that's hard when people have been working for me and I've been backing them up. You know how many calls I done got from people who were harassing me online and everything like that, and giving out people gave out my badge number, they gave out my home cell phone number, they gave out my address. I moved and then they gave out my new address. You get what I'm saying? I got people threatening me they're gonna come up and cripple me because police officers on the Philadelphia Police Department took pictures of me, put a collage together, calling me a thug, a scumbag. I infiltrated the department, posted it in every police blog, Blue Lives Matter, Leo's Only, all over the place. Now it's nationwide. I'm getting DMs from cops who have been retired for 10 years, 11 years, cursing me out, threatening me. I'm like, I had no idea any of this was going on.
And this is while you were still on the job.
I'm at work. I had to pull over for 2 hours because my phone wouldn't stop just social media. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm checking my social medias. I don't understand why all these old white people are like messaging me, cursing me. I'm like, what's going on? And then, I get a few messages from, it was a Maryland state trooper and it was a Maryland cop. Like, yo, is this you? I'm like, yeah, that's me. Where'd you get that from? Yo, you're floating all around the blogs. Take a look. I'm blocked from all of them now, so I can't even see. They're in there conspiring, like, oh, how can we get this thug off the job? Well, let's message him and threaten him, and then when he threatens us back, we'll file a complaint, and then they'll arrest him. And this was before I got arrested. You get what I'm saying? This is what they're already conspiring against me. I'm writing memos. I'm asking the commissioner for help. I'm like, yo, I'm getting people in the department that are giving up my personal information, and I'm getting stuff because cops are seeing it, and they're like, yo, it's crazy what they're doing to you. Don't involve me because I got too much to lose.
That's what I got ready to ask you. Like, what was reaction from other officers that
it was
maybe were, decent guys and shit, but you know what I'm saying?
And you can't be mad at that. I can't ask nobody to jeopardize their family, their livelihood just to help me out. You get what I'm saying? When, if I was that worried about my livelihood, I could have just chose to let it go and, swallow my pride. But, I didn't. And I respect their decisions, but I still had to keep pushing. That's what I had to do. It became a problem for me when I stopped getting backup on certain calls. You know what I'm saying?
So what you mean when you stopped getting backup? Like you get a call, and nobody show up?
Yeah, because I'm saying it's officers that are like, yes, those are friends. Even though people are starting to get distant, they know you're a good guy. Mm-hmm. They're coming if they hear you. And then there's cops that's like, I don't give a f what happens to him. If he gets killed, he gets killed. I'm responding to back another officer up for a person with a gun. I'm getting off. I'm done. Shift's done, over. I'm just hanging out for like 30 minutes talking. I hear him come over. I'm like, you know what? Grab the radio. Let me go back out there. I'm telling him I'm coming a distance. I get there. He's not even there. Immediately, I start fighting with two guys. One guy runs off. The other guy slammed me, and we had a brutal fight. I'm on the radio screaming for help. The first 3 cars to pull up wasn't even from my district. And on my way to that call, I'm passing cops on car stops that were only 3-4 blocks up. How are you not even here to help me when you knew exactly where I was at? You made the choice to be the last one to show up because as far as you was concerned, I was no longer a cop. Because what the department did was it took and it painted this picture that I was a snitch. Mm. They bring you up to internal affairs. They try to put the pressure on you to cave in when you get up there. And when they realize that you're not going to cave in, I had an investigator up there, and she was in charge at the time of all the equal opportunity complaints. Like, she's the woman. You get what I'm saying? Like, when I found out, I got a black investigator, I was like, I just felt so much better because I'm like, yo, if anybody's going to understand what I'm going through, it's going to be her. Even if she's up there like, well, listen, I can't really do too much, but I understand you. That was so much more than someone that just thinking I'm playing a race card. And she got up there and she grilled me, basically told me that I was soft again. If this was back in my day and you would have did this, you would have been walking a footbeat for the rest of your career. And I'm like, well, it's not back in your day. So can we keep going on with the interview? And I was like, and if you stop it one more time to tell me about what would have happened to me back in your day, I said, I'm gonna put a complaint on you. And she stopped and was like, look, you're right. I can show you better than I could tell you. And she started tearing me apart. I was in there for 2 hours. The person who got interviewed wasn't even in there for 2 hours. The person I was accusing of it wasn't even in there for 2 hours. You get what I'm saying? Like, they sat me in there and she tore me apart in there. And she tried to pick apart every little detail. But that's the thing they were playing. She's like, oh, I heard you go to school. Where do you go to school at? I'll go to school at Chestnut Hill, going there for my bachelor's. Oh, do they take time for you to go to school? Honestly, I don't know. That's above my pay grade.
So explain what that means. So because you was talking about, I guess this leads up to what got you arrested, right? Where we at right now, right?
This is because it's 2 lawsuits. So it was the initial lawsuit that I wound up selling out with the city. Immediately after settling out with them, they started retaliating against with me. Once the lawsuit settled, I'm thinking like, okay.
And the lawsuit was for what? Like
for hostile work environment, racial discrimination, retaliation. The judge dismissed 2 of them and only held up the hostile work environment. Once the lawsuit was initiated, I'm like, okay, they eased up. Once the city got notified, they stopped harassing me. I kind of caught a little bit of break for a while. You start to forget all the problems you were having the last years because you're like, I finally got peace again. I'm just now starting to get back to the normal assignments. No one's talking about me. You kind of want it to all go away. I'm up at the bar, the FOP, during the Christmas party, and there was a supervisor up there, has one too many, starts throwing the N-word around, called several of me and another officer N-words, and the department just swept it all under the rug, you know. And I'm like making a complaint about it, and then they, you know, he gets moved, and now he's my supervisor, my direct supervisor. You get what I'm saying? And then I go to them, and I'm like, "Yo, are you guys out of your mind?" And then it's like, I'm like, "You move." I'm trying to get away from one supervisor, and you put me under another one that you guys just disciplined for saying, like, you know, the N-word all publicly, all like that, you know, calling people banana eating monkeys, like, and you make him my supervisor. And their solution was, well, we already punished him once, we can't punish him again. It's double jeopardy. So all we can do is every day you just got to check in and let us know if he says something mean to you. But like I said, it did get a little better. The lawsuit kind of like, we wound up selling out. Everything was good to go. A week later, the David Jones shooting happened, and it, you know, it was in the district that I worked at. You know, I saw some of the stuff that was going on. It was, you know, I felt something personal about it. I started speaking out about it. McNesby then took action, and, you know,
Took action how?
So
now, and I just got to be clear. Like, I don't know the police side of the story.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. I do these, and I just let my subject tell their story.
So
right.
If you know anything about the police department, the union FOP is one of the largest unions in the country. You know, they're very influential, and it's basically a cult for police officers. Like, it doesn't have to make sense as long as it's the union. You know, they're fine with it. McNesby started using a little bit of his influence to kind of like steer my case into a direction to where I would be investigated, you know.
So what you're saying is instead of representing you to help you fight your case, he was steering your case in the direction that basically set you up? This is what it sounds like.
And that's what it was, to the point where I had to completely stop using any. When I got arrested, I wouldn't use any of the legal team for the union because I didn't trust where it was coming from. You get what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want them to have any influence over. And even when I gave them the benefit of the doubt, you know, and this is like, you know, when the lawsuit was, not the lawsuit, the arrest was done, you know, when I beat the arrest and it all came back around, I from arrest to when the Inquirer printed up that I beat the charges and what it was stemming from and my side of the story, was the first and last time that I talked to McNesby. The day I got arrested and the day I beat my charges. He didn't hit me up. He didn't reach out to me, completely cut all ties with me. And that's not normal for anybody in the union. Like, I would reach out to them and get nothing back. You get what I'm saying? But I got them invoices every month for my union dues.
So let's go back. You was talking about the shooting.
Yeah.
So let's go into that a little bit.
So there was like a video for the shooting that, you know, you could see where Mr. Jones was turning the corner and the officer fired, like, when he was running away. But when they were speaking about it on the news, and I know they saw the video because I saw the video at the preliminary level. So when they start speaking about it on the news, they were talking as if the officer was already cleared and that, oh, we found a gun, it was a good shooting. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, that's not what I saw. And I started speaking out about it. You know, I started talking about how they're covering up for the stuff. You know, and that's when the major backlash started. That's when the DMs start blowing up. That's when, you know, stuff was being photoshopped, sent around. Websites start popping up about me. Like, it was like a website called like Turtle something, Turtle Boy or Turtle Bay. And you go on there and it was like a whole website dedicated to pictures of me from my social medias, writing little bios about me. Like, I guess they reached out to anybody they thought that would know me through the police department and just would trash me on the site, you know?
So what was your thoughts? Like, what were you thinking at this time, man? I mean, you're on the job, you're trying to do your job, you're fighting in the street, and you're fighting in the department, from what you're telling me, right? So how do you just continue to get up and go to work and do and function in that environment, man? Listen, what was your motivation?
Honestly, I was pretty capable that I was like, you know, whatever happens, I'll be able to defend myself. But then when they took my gun and it made me sign work saying that I couldn't even carry my regular guns off duty, when I got people threatening me that you guys won't even investigate, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, you know, that's when I start getting nervous. I'm like, yo, somebody could come up and hurt me and they're not even going to investigate it properly because they already written me off. You know, they look at me, oh, he's a liability. We got to separate him from the department. So, you know, I was stressed, man. You know, I was stressed. I couldn't go to anybody for help. Nobody, like, it was so frustrating. that nobody will help me. I'm writing a memo a day about the stuff that's going on. All of them I'm asking at the end of the memo, I'm talking about stuff that I think is going to happen to me. Before I'm like, they're going to start trying to go through all my arrests, look for anything they can lock me up for. I'm putting it all in memos and sending it up the chain of command. Like, I'm worried that they're going to start harassing my family when they realize they can't get to me. They started doing that. You know, I'm writing memos like I referenced this memo about my family being harassed 4 months prior. Now my family's being harassed. I lost so much, man. I was homeless for a brief period. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. My credit shot. I lost my house. You know, the city failed to protect me at every single level. The commissioner failed to protect me. All those deputies, inspectors, those supervisors that I reached out to that failed me. You know, the DA's office, like, they maliciously prosecuted me. They had no evidence. It wasn't even circumstantial at best. An 8-day trial, it was supposed to be a 1-day trial that the DA dragged out for 6 or 7 days. You get what I'm saying? Just grasping at straws and not even arguing any facts of the case. It almost got tossed out at the end because you never stated what you were even charging me for to begin with, because there was nothing to even charge me for. This was all about making an example out of me for speaking up. Because if I speak up and you make it hard for me, it'll make me less hesitant to speak up next time. You know what I'm saying? And it'll make the next person sitting there that just watch you go through all that, no matter what the outcome is at the end, win, lose, or draw, nobody wants to go through
I
that.
can already say that. So what do you think? So, I mean, when you look at the department now, I mean, you know, do you think they accomplished what they were trying to accomplish?
I mean, they did a pretty good job. I mean, they definitely didn't break me. And I'm gonna see it all the way to the end. But if their goal was to end my career in law enforcement, then 100% success.
So you were clear. There was you were never.
Took 15 minutes for a not guilty. You know, every single one of the jurors. Every single one of the jurors, 15 minutes, not guilty. And I'm telling you, it was the hardest 8 days of my life. And not because I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna go to jail. It's because I had everybody working against me. You get what I'm saying? I had no help from the union. It was just me and my lawyer, and that's it. The judge was even working against us. You know, it was so bad, my lawyer is reaching out to other lawyers, like, you gotta come in here and witness this, because I'm in case I have to file I need witnesses. Yeah. Because the way that she is treating us in there, you know, berating us, you know, every 15 minutes excusing the jury so you can yell at us and threaten us and not to ask certain questions. You know, I sat there and I just looked around and I'm like, yo, I've testified hundreds of times, over and over. I've never seen anyone treated like this on a stand, because it would have blew my mind.
What are you hoping to get out the deal at the end of the day, man? I mean, your job is gone. Yeah. Your career is gone. You know, you lost, you know, you say you lost your crib, you lost your credit is shot.
So, I mean, it's gonna sound like a little like corny, but every time the city gets in a predicament where they're at and they're dealing with somebody, especially a person of color that's complaining about the institutional racism that's going on throughout the department, they try to throw money at them. You know, they try to throw units at them. Oh, where do you want to go? Like, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. I could have got to all those places if I stayed there working hard work. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? They always find a way to not take accountability for it. Like, when this is done, win, lose, or draw, they'll never be able to say that this did not happen. Like, I don't want them to be able to be like, oh, we're gonna make this an individual issues, you know, because that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna get to a point where they realize that, all right, let's take the blame from the department and the city and put it on those individual officers and say they was unable to be controlled, but then they take no responsibility for creating that culture that turned those guys into monsters. You get what I'm saying? You did everything in your power to allow mob mentality to set in with a bunch of professionals that are armed and are supposed to be out there keeping tempered minds and patrolling, incite, you know, violence towards another officer. You know, people saying that I can't wait until he steps in front of the crosshairs, you know, a supervisor in the 15th district, you know, I can't wait till he's dead. What's his badge number so I don't accidentally donate to his funeral? You know, these are the conversations I'm having with coworkers online, and I'm getting screenshots every day. You know, I was depressed. You know, my anxiety is through the roof. I'm thinking everything is a setup. You know, I'm sitting there. You know, even to this day, I'm still running into police officers that are still giving me a hard time about stuff from 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago when I was on the job. Who do I reach out to the commissioner, you know, who is in now, you know, Daniel Outlaw, and I know she got a lot going on, and none of the mess was hers. But, you know, and I know it's a lot of channels before you can even get to her. Yeah. But I reached out the way the public's supposed to reach out to her, you know, and I got no response about that. Who can help me at this point? You know, I'm just subjected to keep being abused by people that are in positions of power every time I run across them over some grudge that I wasn't even wrong about. Like, I didn't make any of this stuff up. You know, I wasn't out there starting stuff and lying. I could see if I was a dirty cop and was out there robbing people and selling drugs and they wanted to shun me and treat me mean, I can get that. But you're not doing that to them.
The criminal case is dead.
Yeah, it's dead. I beat it.
You beat that, that's over.
Done.
What, so I'm assuming you have a civil case.
Yeah, I got a civil case right now. And you know, I wish it's stalling out. The city's taking every single second they can take.
I read in one of the articles where McNesby said, well, he was not found guilty, so we're gonna fight to get him his job back.
I'll tell you what, I personally don't have a problem with McNesby, but I will say this, he protects who he wants to protect. You know, he is 100% not an ally for me or anybody that looks like me. When I beat that case and they had to print that, and you know, they ambushed him at the, you know, the police headquarters, and they, you know, now they're talking to him. You know, now it's like, oh yeah, he, you know, I guess he beat it, so you know, we'll get him his job back. His whole tone in that article was telling me he didn't want me back. You get what I'm saying? I did the arbitration. The arbitrator that they said they had for me, you know, I'm on the phone with him. He's like, you know, he's our guy. You know, he brings back our tough jobs. And I'm like, well, why do I need a guy that's going to bring back a tough job? I beat the case. I didn't do any of the stuff that they said. There was no evidence. So why do you need this special?
Should be easy.
Why
right?
you need this special guy for me? He was like, well, it's not that we need him for you. He said, I just don't want to have any doubts. Okay. I said, fine. You know, if that's what you got, you know, we did the arbitration and they switched the arbitrator out on me at the last minute. You know, I had no idea. I'm sitting there and they said his name and I'm like, I'm looking over, I'm like, is that the same arbitrator? They was like, I'm like, well, was you gonna tell me that y'all switched it out? We don't have to tell you we switched it out. We waited a whole extra 2 months for the city to get 2 more special witnesses. They got a DA to come in, that was the DA on the case, and they got a trainer who trains people in the computer system where the error was made. And he said there was no training for that until I got up here 2 years ago. I don't understand how this little mistake ended up with this officer arrested and facing 22 years. You get what I'm saying? There was no violence.
You didn't say the fact that they you was facing 22 years.
Yeah, that was part of the judge. You know, she
over $200.
Listen, Judge Marie-Ann Coyle, you know, the DA he offered me like a few deals. I didn't even entertain them because I wasn't taking the deal. Yeah. So about the third deal, it was around November time. It was around when they sent me the wrong court notice, so we were kind of like settling down. And she was like, just offer him a deal so he can get out of here. He says, well, I offered him several, he won't listen. She forced me to listen to the deal in there. The deal was ARD, which is, you know, advanced rehabilitative disposition. It's for nonviolent, low-level offenders. It's a diversionary program to keep them out of court. You pay the fine, you're back on the streets. And I said no, because it's an open plea of guilt, and I didn't do what you guys said I did. And if you're saying I did it, then bring the evidence and prove it in court, because I know you don't have the evidence because it didn't happen. And she got upset. You know, she was like, do you even understand what, you know, ARD even means? Do you understand what that means? I said, yes, ma'am, I know what ARD is. She was like, well, explain it to me. I was like, do you want the abbreviation, what the abbreviation means, or do you want the definition? She said, I want both. Read it out to her just like I read it out for you a few moments ago. And then she says, how far did you make it in school? She said, what grade did you drop out in? And I looked at her. She was right, I did drop out, you know, but I looked at her and I was like, she was like 7th, 8th. I'm like, 7th, I'm like, I dropped out. I was like, I dropped out in the 10th grade. I said, but I'm only like 12 credits away from getting my bachelor's. And she goes, oh, so you are educated. I just don't understand why you won't take this deal. I was like, honestly, ma'am, I didn't do what they said I did. She said, well, you know what? You're facing a lot of time. She said, you understand that, right? And I'm like, well, what do you mean I'm facing a lot of time? She said, well, I'll tell you. I start hearing it. All I hear is 36 months, 22 months, 17 months, 9 months. I'm like, what is all these months coming from? She says, I'm going to give you the max on each charge if you're not taking that deal. She said, you're facing 11 to 22 years. She said, if you don't take that deal. She said, that's a lot of time to play around with. And I looked at my lawyer looked at me, we looked at the DA looked at us like, no one saw that coming. I'm like, well, I'm not taking the deal. And she was like, well, I'll give you some time to think about it, and gave me 3 months. Came back, ma'am, I'm still not taking that deal. She said, okay, I'll see you in another 3 months. I really got scared because I'm like, I'm fighting the judge and I'm fighting the DA. Like, all it takes, like she was using her influence so hard that if they would have had one piece of evidence, I would have been doing 22 years.
A wrap.
But the fact that they had nothing to even charge me with just saved me. Since me getting arrested, charged, my charges beat, I've had 7 police officers reach out to me and 2 former police officers reach out to me about similar incidences, which I referred them to my lawyer. I talked to them about like what I went through, the process. I didn't have this conversation hundreds of times with people calling. You know, I had an officer 2 weeks ago call me about something that's going on. Like, yo, I need to talk to you because they're on me now and I need some help. And I saw what you went through and I don't want to go through that. You know, and I don't want to go through that. And because I went through it, I'm not making them go through it alone.
Yeah.
You know, even though I went through it alone. You know, I could have been like, well, look, I can't help you. But it's like, no, I don't want you to go through that. I want the department, every time the department tries to do this, I want it to be harder and harder and harder and more expensive for them so that they learn it's cheaper to treat everybody right than to try to protect one, you know, POS that's on his way out.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
My drink is done, man. So the interview's over, man. That's how we do it, man. Listen, I appreciate you giving me some of your time, man. Your story's crazy, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
I wish you all the best, man. And I hope that your story puts enough pressure on the city that people start standing up.
Listen, I just
and change comes. I mean, because we need good cops on the street, man. I mean, we dealing with a lot of shit out here, man. And you know, last thing we need is for cops to feel like they gotta hold back or refrain from doing what's right because they're afraid of what they're gonna have to deal with from the department, and they gotta deal with the nonsense in the street. Like, it's just too much.
It is too much.